Welcome to the FTS podcast, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
You came all the way from Ohio.
Yeah, good old Ohio.
Yeah. So what do you do out there? How's Ohio? You mentioned you are the CEO and founder of Team Recovery. What is Team Recovery?
It's an addiction treatment center. So we have two arms of it. We have the addiction treatment actual service provider side, and then we have a foundation side as well. I started the foundation when I was actually in treatment 10 years ago. October 15th, 2015 is my clean date. And October 17th is when I was just like tossing and turning in detox. Like I could not sleep, all the typical stuff. And I just started writing down all these ideas of what I wanted to do in the middle of the night based on my previous 27 attempts in treatment. And I still have that piece of paper. All these ideas have come true. That piece of paper is framed in my home office, but it was nothing to do with treatment. Like there was no part of my mind that thought that I was to be like dictating or determining how treatment should be provided. I had no clue. I had no education around treatment or anything like that. I had just had my own lived experience of being in treatment. But I had seen different things in 28 treatment centers that didn't necessarily, I felt like I was a number. I felt like I was just another number in a treatment center. And for me, I also never had fun in treatment. And so I said, what can we do to make recovery cool? Like if you can't have fun in recovery, it makes it very difficult to want to stay in recovery. And so that's really what Team Recovery was at the very beginning. We started going in schools. We started doing primary prevention in schools and just telling our story. We did a lot of advocacy in our community. We had, it was called the Ohio versus Heroin rally. We were probably 3 months clean. We did it at our treatment center that I was staying at. And there was a couple thousand people that showed up, and we just marched up and down the street and had vendor booths set up and pulled it off with a shoestring budget of like literally $5, I think is what we spent. We had, everybody just donated their time, and it was just us in recovery. But treatment is treatment, but what happens after you're done with treatment for the day? And just sitting there in the recovery house, just wondering, should I stay? Should I go? What am I going to do about this charge that I have in court? Or when am I going to get my kids? All these things, and so we just developed this team of people and built out committees and subcommittees and membership requirements of, if you want to be part of this, you got to focus on yourself first. Then you have to commit to one of our school presentations. Then you have to commit to our family program. And once you do that after a period of time, now you're a member. Yeah. And now we get to do these things where it's fun after treatment, wherever you're at in treatment. If you want to come bowling with us tonight, that's what we're doing. We're making this happen because the treatment centers weren't making it happen for us. So we go to treatment during the day, and we would just fill our evenings with service work. We were getting calls. We'd show up to, overdoses in the emergency rooms. We'd go meet with police officers and first responders and talk with family members about what their loved ones are doing. Just give them advice. We started a family support group. So it was service, it was fun, it was fellowship, it was, getting back in touch with our faith, whatever that might be. And then there was a huge family component too, because I think, that's something that everybody wants when they get sober, is to reconnect with, whether it's their family or develop their own family.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that was huge for me, because I had a big fear of never having fun again. Yeah. Because my definition of fun was getting drunk and high. So my fear was I'm never going to have fun again. And I'm only 18 years old. Yeah. How could I possibly get sober now? And then also I didn't have the closest relationship with my family, but when I entered either the rooms or the sober house I was in, it was wow, instant community, instant family. Yeah. And it felt like I was building that.
Yes.
So yeah, that's huge.
Getting sober at 18, I can't even imagine that. So congratulations to you for doing that. I was 27 when I got clean and sober, and I feel like that was still early. I feel like I don't know. It was fun until it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
You know, preaching to the choir. You know
Seriously.
what that's all about.
You said, so in a few months you'll have 10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Next Friday, August 1st, will be my four years.
Congratulations.
This is insane.
That's amazing.
So tell me how you got to that point of like needing to get help. Like, did you go through multiple treatment centers? I believe we were talking a little bit about this before we started. What did your addiction look like? How did it get started?
It really started. I mean, the true genesis was my father passed away when I was in high school. So I had a great life. Like growing up, I had a really good life. Good family, like no trauma, no drug abuse in the house, none of that stuff that, you know, I guess society typically thinks would happen to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And private schools, good grades. I had a girlfriend in 7th grade that I broke up with because she smoked a cigarette.
Damn.
Like I wanted like nothing to do with that lifestyle at all.
Yeah.
And so then I go to high school, and for the first time in my life, I felt like just extremely uncomfortable, like the most uncomfortable. I've never felt fear before. I'd never felt insecure. Like I was everything was the same from kindergarten through 8th grade. The same 20 kids in my class, small school. I was the smartest kid. I was the best athlete. Like everything, nothing bad happened. Like I had never experienced adversity up until high school. And then I walk into high school and I'm like no longer the smartest kid, no longer the best athlete. And my father passed away freshman year. And so freshman year for me was like just a perfect storm of inadequacy. And it left like a hole in my heart when he left that I tried to fill with everything else. And so ironically, I started smoking cigarettes. Like I just broke up with Jenna for smoking a cigarette. Now I'm smoking cigarettes. And I always tell people, like, if you hang out in a barbershop long enough, you'll get a haircut. And I hung out with people that were doing those things, and I just wanted their approval. Like that was my first addiction. It was your approval. It had nothing to do with substances yet. I just wanted to feel accepted because I was so uncomfortable. And so it started with cigarettes, and it went to beer, and then it went to pills, and then it went to, you know, cocaine, and you name it, whatever it was. And I found myself not only doing more than what everybody else was doing, but it took the pain away. I didn't have to think about the fact that my dad wasn't here anymore, and he was like my best friend, the best dad that I could ever ask for.
Was it unexpected, his death?
Yeah, so he had back pain. He was retired from the Marines. And then came back and ended up working in a nuclear power plant in our hometown, and retired from there as well. And then he was just bored. He didn't want to be retired, so he started working for the postal service. Yeah. And those bags can get pretty heavy, and he had back pain, and so his doctor just thought that, you know, it's just back pain. You know, you probably strained your back carrying the mail bags. But it was prostate cancer. And so and he kept going back and kept going back. Yeah. By the time they found it, it was metastatic. It had gone from prostate cancer to blood cancer, brain cancer, bone cancer. It was everywhere, and he had a couple months to live. So he actually died on Father's Day in 2002.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Do you hold any resentment towards the doctors?
You know, I've never really thought about that. I don't think I hold any resentment towards the doctors. I mean, now that you ask, do I wish they would have done things differently, and could he still be here? Yeah. So maybe now I'll have to go back and do some more step work on the doctors. But I've never thought about it like that. That was my first experience with death. Yeah. And like it's just extremely uncomfortable. And for a freshman in high school that's trying to acclimate, I didn't even process it. Like I literally remember being at the cemetery after the procession, the Marines that were out there like handing me his flag, and like after it was all over, I was like, okay, like what are we doing now? I have homework to do, and I have basketball practice, and like whose house am I going to go hang out at? Because I didn't know how to process that. It was just such a weird thing, and I never did process it, and I didn't realize that I didn't process it well until the 28th time in treatment. It was the 28th time in treatment where I had finally a really good therapist that helped me realize that my father's death was trauma to me. And I remember being in my first treatment, and they were like, 99% of people have experienced some sort of trauma. That's why they use some sort of substance to the extent that we use them. 1% of people just love drugs and alcohol. And I was like, well, I'm that 1%. I've never experienced trauma. So I don't need to do all this trauma work that you guys are talking about. I just loved drugs and alcohol. And I didn't realize that my father's death was a traumatic experience for me, and it completely changed the way that I viewed the world, the way that I viewed trust in relationships, the way that I viewed control over things. I mean, like, and when I look back, and she was able to paint this picture for me, she's like, the minute that he died, you started to try to control everything. You started to try to get into relationships that you can control. You manipulated your friends to be around you because you felt empty, and those weren't people that you probably would have been hanging out with if your dad was still alive. You didn't bring Matt to the table. You brought a 24, a case of natural light. You brought a bottle of liquor. You bought the blunt. Like you brought everything else except Matt.
Yeah.
And that's why they accepted you. Your resumes, your employment, everything was fake. Everything was fake the whole time. And so, after he left, I just tried to control everything. I started getting tattoos. Like, I just wanted everything to be permanent because I wanted to make sure that nothing could ever leave me. And as long as I was in control, I could make sure that it was never going to leave me. And so, I did that for ever since he passed, all the way up until 2015.
Yeah.
Just tried to control everything.
Yeah, experiencing something traumatic definitely can play a big role in addiction, and also a bunch of other mental illnesses.
Absolutely.
From like even just interviewing people on the podcast, like a traumatic thing brought like OCD symptoms in people.
Absolutely.
Which I've seen like a lot more so other than addiction. It's like OCD, like they have this fixation on something that like that's them trying to control a situation.
Absolutely.
Like, no, like I have to open the door this way. And if I don't open the door this way, it's something bad's going to happen. But yeah, I also had a really hard time identifying with like traumatic events and experiences, which was something I realized with my first time in treatment. It's like, wait, I have experienced trauma. And I don't know why it was so hard for me to for that to click.
Yeah.
Even though like there was obvious violence, I'm like, that wasn't traumatic. People have gone through so much worse.
Right.
So it was like me invalidating my experience because I know people have struggled more than I have, but that doesn't make my experience any less valid.
Any less, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. That's interesting. I could probably go back and think of other things as well that happened, like even just throughout my addiction. So, I mean, it started to go wild once I got to college. I was able to manage everything in high school. I guess like with the way that society thinks of like quote unquote normal partying that high school kids just do.
Yeah,
like
what does that look like?
Yeah, like that. Like that's what I did in high school. And to add to that, every time I got caught, like I got a DUI the day that I turned 16. Like the day that I got my driver's license, I got a DUI.
The
very same day that I got my driver's license. So like I went from like breaking up with a girl for smoking a cigarette to just pushing everything to the ultimate extreme. I would smoke every day before school, like during lunch break, after school. I remember like playing sports. I had some of the best games that I've ever had playing sports, completely high.
Wow.
But again, cops would come to the parties and they'd be like, Matt, you gotta play in the game this Friday. Get out of here. Like I never got in trouble. So there was never any consequences. And that just like started to build up this like false ego that I was indestructible. And why should I stop doing this stuff if every time I ever get in trouble, there's no consequences? Like I'm a firm believer in consequences are sometimes necessary for change.
For sure.
And so I just kept pushing it, got a full ride to the University of Toledo to play baseball. And I hurt my shoulder my freshman year playing baseball. And that was my first interaction with prescription pain pills. They gave me 90 Percocets. This was in 2006. Quick outpatient surgery, 2 hours in and out. And I came home with 90 pills, took the first pill. About 15 minutes later, I stood up and went to the restroom, and it just all hit me. Like that feeling of like, oh my God, that warm, cuddled by God type of feeling. And I was looking in the mirror and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I want to feel like this every day for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life, this is the best feeling I've ever felt, ever. And so immediately what I did is what I used to do in high school. If one beer is good, then 5 must be great. That same mentality of, well, if one of these is making me feel this good, I wonder what 2 or 3 will do. And that script went really, really quick. Yeah. And in no time, I when I was done with that script, I was already starting to feel physical withdrawal symptoms. I was feeling the dependency component of the disease. But I was like, there's no way. I remember Googling like the symptoms, like why can't I sleep? I'm shaking, all this sort of stuff. And it was just addiction, 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 addiction. I was like, no way. I was like on page 10 of Google results, just looking for something else other than addiction. Like, I'm not an addict. I'm a Division I NCAA athlete with a full ride. I have my own apartment. I have a car. Like, I'm not an addict. I know what addicts look like. I'm not that. Just complete denial.
What did you perceive addiction to look like? Because I had the same issue.
Yeah, an addict to me at that time was the person panhandling on street corners, that is experiencing homelessness, that is unkept, that doesn't take showers, that is robbing grocery stores at gunpoint. Like, just I had no knowledge. I had never been introduced to it at all. I had never seen addiction or alcoholism, and my perception of what that was the complete opposite of what I was at that point. And I had no clue that I was exactly that.
Yeah.
I was just in a different state.
Yeah.
Living in a different state. And so I went and bought a pill for the first time on the streets, because that's what my friend told me to do. He said, take a pill, and if it makes you feel better, at least you'll know if that's the problem, if the pills are the problem. If you're sick right now and you go take another pill, if you feel better, you have your answer. And I was like, that's genius. That's genius.
In a sense, it kind of makes sense.
So I did, and took it, and within 5 minutes, I was like perfectly normal again. And then I was like off to practice. Just had to go to practice. Yeah. And like just completely forgot about everything else that was happening. And I just continued to do that. And now the consequences start to come in. I'm late. My grades are dropping. All this sort of stuff. I'm not performing. I'm not going to physical therapy for my shoulder. The coaches are starting to notice things. And it got to a point where I was just like, I knew, like NCAA does random drug screens. So like every week I'd come into the locker room and like be so nervous that my name was going to be on the random list. And it never was. But I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like the anxiety that was building up and what I was doing, I went to my coach and I was like, I don't love baseball anymore. So I think I'm going to go work at Jimmy John's. That's what I want to do. And he was like, Matt, if something's wrong, we have resources. We can help you. You have health insurance through the school. If something's going on, I'm not saying there is, but like, just tell me. And I was like, no, there's nothing wrong. Everything's perfect. I fell out of love with baseball. And that was the biggest lie I think I ever told anybody.
Yeah. All of that to avoid maybe popping up like on a random drug screen.
Yeah. I was so afraid of like just the embarrassment and the shame, the stigma that comes with having to say I'm addicted to a substance.
At that point, you had kind of put together that I struggle with addiction.
Oh yeah, at that point, it had graduated from. I forgot to mention that I inherited about $150,000 from my father when he passed away, and I got that when I turned 18. And I went through all of that in about 7 months.
Fuck.
I had switched from the Percocets to now OxyContin. And I was buying 5 or 6 OxyContin 80s a day, and I also had switched from swallowing the Percocets to now snorting, and then somebody showed me how to inject them intravenously, and so I was shooting up 5 or 6 OxyContin 80s a day, and that that's a lot of money at the time. Those were $80 a pill.
Damn.
And I just burned through that entire inheritance, and I was so far deep in at that point. Like the withdrawals were so bad, I had tried to stop at home. Like it wasn't just the few Percocet withdrawal anymore. Like it was full-blown active addiction with consequences. And I still was not willing to say that I was one of them.
What do you think the difference is with using needles? Like, do you think there's like a whole different experience or like another addiction with just using a needle to get high? Mm-hmm. Because I've heard like it's almost an addiction to the ritual.
100%.
Yeah, so what was that like? Like almost graduating from swallowing to snorting to injecting.
Every time I graduated to a different form, I was nervous.
Yeah.
I would always have somebody else do it first. There was like a group of us that was using together, which I also think is ironic because like addiction and partying and like it starts as like this very social thing, and in the end, I end up completely alone. Like I couldn't pay somebody to hang out with me, but every time, like the first time I snorted a pill, I remember just being so nervous about it, and so I'd like let the other person go first just to see how they reacted, And then I would do it. And the same thing with injecting. We actually looked it up on YouTube on how to do it. At the time, there was a video on YouTube on how to, cook down the pill and break it down and, heat the spoon and put the cotton in and draw it up and put the tourniquet on and everything. I mean, just like the whole thing was on YouTube. And so we did that. And from the very first time that I did that, I absolutely fell in love with it. I mean, I remember exactly where I was. It just hit so much stronger and faster and harder, and there was no waiting for it to hit your bloodstream. I mean, it was direct to your bloodstream, and so the high was just so much more intense. And that's what I was chasing the entire time, was like that intense high that I couldn't find as my tolerance, went up more and more. But there was times that if I didn't have drugs, I would just shoot up water.
Really?
I would shoot up water just truly because of that ritualistic component of it, of just having a needle in my arm for a moment was like a mental temporary relief, just a mental temporary relief that lasts for just 2 seconds. There was times that I would shoot up Jack Daniels.
Damn.
To just take the edge off, just because I was equally as addicted to the needle as I was to the substances.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you had a DUI. Like, were there any consequences from that? Because I got 3 DUIs at the time span of like 11 months, and that played the biggest role into me like seeking help. Like, I'm literally still to this day paying the consequences of my 3 DUIs. Yeah. I'm like, my 3-year suspension's almost up, but I just figured out like I have to take DUI classes. So I have 20 classes of like, hey, you can't drink and drive, and this is the legal alcohol limit. So I have 20 hours to do of that, and then I can like officially be done and like have a clean slate in North Carolina. Yeah. So yeah, I'm like still paying the consequences of that almost 4 years later.
The wreckage of her past.
Yeah. So yeah, did you have any like legal consequences during this time?
Not from that. When I got my DUI, I was 16. Yeah. So
they're a little lenient on a minor, especially if it's only one.
Yeah, and it's like, again, like the consequences and the perception of it. I'm in a private school. I'm a star athlete. I have a 4.0 GPA. The guy made a bad decision here. This kid made a bad decision, and so mom pays for an attorney, and I get a slap on the wrist that basically says you have school driving privileges, you have sports driving privileges. Other than that, and work driving privileges. Other than that, you can't drive. And I was like,
easy.
Okay, that's what I do. That's like everything I do on a daily basis. So you're just saying that like after school, after sports, and after work, I just have to go home. Like that's what I do anyway. Yeah. And so I had to like do that for like, I think it was like 90 days. And if I didn't get in trouble again in those 90 days, then it was like wiped off my record. Wow. Yeah. Now I wasn't so lucky once I became an adult. So once I became an adult and dropped off the baseball team, Jimmy John's only lasted for a little while. I was fired for changing the tip amount. Someone would put like $5 on the tip line, and I would add a 1 in front of the 5, so it'd be a $15 tip. And so I was like stealing from the people that I was delivering subs to. People they caught onto that really quick, and then it was just like, okay, I have my truck, and I need to figure out how to make money. I started to scrap metal. I started to just do whatever I could to like break into places and steal things and sell them to pawn shops. Just full survival mode at that point. And then I started getting arrested a lot. I was arrested 13 times in 4 different states.
Holy shit. Yeah.
So I had felonies in Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and I had misdemeanors in Ohio and Florida.
Did you do like just jail time, or did you?
Yeah. I never went to prison.
What were the felonies?
So the felony, Michigan, was a 2nd-degree home invasion. What I was doing was driving around in nice neighborhoods looking for anybody that had their garage doors open, because in nice neighborhoods, people leave their garage doors open. And I would just park my truck a couple houses down, walk up, grab something, whatever it was, a toolkit, a weed whacker, a bicycle, like whatever it was, and I would just take it out of there. And I stole from the wrong person. Every person was the wrong person, but on a specific day, I stole from a detective's house.
Of course.
And he was home, and his garage was an attached garage to the home. And so technically in the state of Michigan, the garage is considered part of the home.
Yeah.
And since I walked into his garage while he was home, it was considered a home invasion. And I ended up doing, I think, 9 months in jail in Monroe County, Michigan. And then I got put on probation for 3 years. But, and then I had grand larceny in Ohio in Wood County. I was working at like a manufacturing plant, and I was a sales manager. All the invoices would come through me. And so I ended up developing like a different sales platform through like a Square reader that I had on my phone. Yeah. And I would just process the payments through that account, but still push the orders through production. Yeah. And so the customer would receive what they needed, but I would receive the money. And I did that for about 6 months and ended up being indicted. Grand larceny was $26,000 worth of charges that I took from that company, and I had to pay back every single penny when I got sober.
Did you pay it off all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had they put me on probation for 3 years as well.
Financial amends are a different beast.
Oh my gosh. And I'll tell you what, like the amends process, I remember like just like basic amends, like the things that I could take care of in year like 1 and 2 and 3. And then in year 4 is when it really started to hit me, because there was all these like creditors out there that I had like taken out like payday loans from and all this sort of stuff. And the minute that my name or social security number was like in a payroll system again where I was receiving money, they were like, okay, now we're gonna get all of our money back from this guy. And I remember being like 4 years clean, and like everybody was sending collection letters. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that. Completely forgot about that. And I'll tell you that like even being almost 10 years clean now, like it's still, the amends process is, I mean, I did some damage out there, not just to institutions and creditors and banks and things like that, but to just people. There's still people out there that might not ever forgive me, or have like partially forgiven me, but will never fully trust me again. And that's their right. And I don't get to dictate when somebody forgives me.
And that's another part that we kind of learned with making amends. It's like accepting their reaction, because they have every right to be fucking pissed and annoyed.
Absolutely.
Like we shouldn't be begging for like your forgiveness. You know what I mean? If you want nothing to do with me, perfectly fine.
Right.
Yeah. So how was your relationship with your family at this time? And you said you went to 28 different treatment centers. When did those come into play?
They came into play pretty quickly. I think I went to my first one. I called my mom in the middle of the night. Just extremely high on Oxycontin. And I was like, Mom, I'm doing these pills. I can't stop. I just wanted to tell you that. And she calls me back the next day with my uncle. And he's like, we're going to take care of this. He's like, I'm picking you up Friday and we're going to take care of this. And I was like, okay, fine. He took me on a camping trip with my 2 cousins. And we went up to Michigan and camped somewhere like in the middle of the woods. And like that was his, like he really thought, again, like my family didn't even understand addiction. Yeah. He was like, we're just going to dry you out. I remember them saying those words, like, we're going to dry you out for a couple days and everything's going to be okay. And I like cold turkey. That was my first like real detox, was like a cold turkey in a tent in the middle of the woods in
Sounds
Michigan.
Horrible.
It was terrible. It was like the absolute worst thing. Yeah. It was so bad. I remember like going into a porta potty and snorting a Tylenol just to see if it would take the edge off. Like just so disgusting, snorting a Tylenol off of a porta potty, like the toilet paper holder. And that burned. Don't ever do that. But that was like my first treatment center, and then just started going to treatment after treatment. Like every time I went to treatment, it was because somebody else wanted me to go. Like at some point, my mom would always let me come back until the very end, which I'll get to, but she would always let me come back. She'd always let me stay. As long as I completed treatment, she would always support me. She'd always assist with whether it was groceries or bills or something like that. Like I was her baby, regardless of if I was an adult. She thought that she was helping me. And she didn't realize that I was lying to her the whole time. I was still using. And every, $20 worth of groceries that she gave me was $20 worth of money that I didn't have to pay for groceries that I could use for more heroin. So it was just in and out of treatment centers. I mean, sometimes I'd stay for a day. Sometimes I would complete. Sometimes I'd stay for half the time and say, you know what, I've done this enough. I know exactly what you're going to say in group. I could probably facilitate these groups myself. I can rehearse the big book. I know it. I got this. Okay, I got this. I gotta change this one thing. I wasn't ready to fully commit to the process of recovery, and take the suggestions that were given. It's interesting because the information that I was given in my first treatment center was the exact same information that I was given in my last treatment center. 10 years later. It was about when I was ready to actually put in the work and do some action.
What was missing? What was the piece that was missing?
For me, it was the faith component and turning my will and life over to the care of God as I understand Him. And so I grew up Catholic. I'd sort of become agnostic throughout addiction. Like, if God was real, He wouldn't have, first of all, He wouldn't have taken my dad away. And second of all, He wouldn't let all this stuff happen to me. I prayed all the time, and nothing ever came true. I would ask for things to happen, and nothing ever came true. So I got to this agnostic place of just wondering why. And so when I got clean and I asked somebody to be my sponsor, he went through step 1 and 2, and then he got to step 3. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't really know if I can do that whole turn my will and my life over to something else. I feel nervous about that. And he's like, he opened the big book. There's a chapter called We Agnostics in the big book, and there's on the last page, there's a line that says, "Who are you to say there is no God?" And I normally have answers for most things in life, or if not, I feel like I can find an answer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I search for the next year, I don't know if I'll ever be able to prove that there isn't a God. And I was like, you know what? I'm willing. I'm willing to at least explore it. I'm willing to try it. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm willing to give it a shot. And he said, that's good enough. Let's move on. And so that was the biggest difference for me was really stop doing it Matt's way. I did it Matt's way for 10 years, and Matt's way failed every single time, 100% of the time, not 99% of the time. Doing it Matt's way, Matt being Matt's sponsor, going to Matt's Anonymous, going to Matt's home group, that did not work at all. And so the writing was on the wall. I was like, maybe I just need to do what they've been saying this every single time. The steps never changed. Maybe I should just give this a shot. And for me, that's what it was. It was turning my will and life over to the care of God.
What do you think the purpose of treatment really is? I feel like a lot of people don't know. Even maybe your mom, even my parents, I feel like they think you go and you're kind of cured. Mm-hmm. And they feel like that's the solution. You leave and you should be good.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that there's actually recovery is a lifelong process and journey. Mm-hmm. So it's, okay, so what is the purpose of treatment? Why go?
First of all, I don't think everybody has to go to treatment. I think it's completely individualized, and everybody needs certain things, and based on people's lives, they're only capable of doing certain things. Somebody might be employed and can only get a week off through FMLA and go to detox, right? And they can't continue to stay in treatment for 6 months. I think treatment in general is to assess what's going on with an individual to determine a good treatment plan and goals and objectives based on whatever the diagnosis is, whether it's substance use, co-occurring mental illness, or both. And then to give the individual tools on how to do that and let them lead the way. I mean, so I went back to school when I got sober. I got my master's degree in social work, and just really understanding that just because I got sober this way and this is what worked for me, that doesn't mean that that's how it is for everybody. Faith might not be something that anybody else cares about. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But just because I work the 12 steps doesn't mean that everybody has to work the 12 steps. There's a lot of ways that people can recover. Our job as an agency, or any good agency out there, is to, first of all, get somebody into a safe environment, to get them stabilized, to get the substances out of their system, hopefully, and then to get them to a point where they're starting to think a different way, to understand why they were doing what they were doing, and to understand that there's a lot of different ways to deal with the pain that you were experiencing to cope with whatever it is that you were trying to cope with. I think that most people use substances addictively because of some sort of pain, whether that's physical pain or emotional pain. I'm very happy today, and I'm not searching for heroin, right? But I think that anybody, you're hungry, you have a hunger pain, you eat, and it solves that hunger pain. The next time you get a hunger pain, you'll eat. Like you know what solves that pain. If you sprain your ankle, you'll take a Tylenol. You'll put ice on it. Maybe you'll elevate it, whatever it is. Like when people feel pain, they do something to take that pain away. And for certain individuals like myself, it just all lined up that my father passed away. I was feeling some crazy emotional pains that I didn't know how to deal with. And I found something that took that pain away. And so it's not that I wanted to be bad. It's not that I wanted to do anything wrong. I was doing something that took the pain away. And I think that that's like what addiction is in a nutshell. That's how it starts, is people just want the pain to go away. And in many cases, especially with the opioid epidemic, it started with true physical pain. Yeah. So, to address like, what is that? Where is this pain coming from? Why were you doing what you were doing? How do we lay this out in a plan that makes sense to you, that you dictate what your goals are, and let's come up with a plan with, licensed and credentialed individuals that are qualified to give you the advice to say, here's what you're going to do, hopefully within your time with us, whether that's a week or whether that's 6 months. And then for aftercare, when you leave here, there's a lot of things. This is a lifelong journey. There's no finish line for this. So just understand that this is going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a long time, and that's okay.
For me, treatment was really helpful in the terms of like, I've never once in my life had taken into consideration my mental health. I had no idea what that was. Going into treatment, 18, first time I'm ever receiving therapy in my life. First time I'm actually looking at trauma. Like I'm like, wait, yeah, I've experienced trauma. And finally getting separation from like my environment and the people I was surrounding myself with.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, that separation from the drugs and alcohol. I don't know, to this day, I really don't know what the reason was of like why I used.
Yeah.
Like for you, you're like, I'm pretty sure it was me coping with the pain of my father's death. For me, I'm like, yeah, there was things here and there, but what was the reason why I got high? I don't know if I'll ever have the answer to that question, but it's just come into terms of like, yeah, I drank and used because I felt so uncomfortable within. Yeah. And there was just something I was running from internally, a feeling, an emotion, or like what I thought of myself, or maybe I was so consumed with what people may have thought of me.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that was, like going to rehab. That was like the eye opener for me. And that was the beginning. And what happened is I was just willing to keep growing and learning and maybe not running anymore. So that was the beginning for me. Yeah.
You said that very well. Not running anymore. And I think we're all running from something in active addiction.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing normal about the way that we used substances. We talk about like knowing that we're powerless and that our lives are unmanageable, right? Like, I think like for me, I knew every single time that everything that I was doing was unmanageable. I knew that, like that was very, very clear. But to say that I was powerless over the substance, I was constantly trying to figure out another way that I could do it differently, more safely, a way I wasn't going to overdose, that wouldn't end up in homelessness or behind a jail cell again. Like I was constantly just trying to figure out a different way. And I remember going to treatment. After I got out of treatment, I took the suggestion of going to a meeting, and this guy said something to me that summarized it so well. He said, Matt, if drugs are your answer, what's your question? And he threw in a couple other choice words in there that I'm not going to say. He said, if drugs are your answer, what is your question? And like, it was one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, like that is so deep. I don't know what to say to that. But I do believe that for the longest time, the drugs were my answer. They were, but like, why? The answer to what? Like, what was going on inside of me that going into like dark alleys and buying substances, committing crime to get money, to like buy from a drug dealer that I don't even know what he's giving me. I think that's the answer. Like, what is going on inside of me that's the answer to? What is it? And so like I took that question. That was a question from a meeting. I took that question back to my therapist. I took that question to another meeting. I took that question to my peers. I took that question all over the place and just like, what is it? And I came to find that I was just so uncomfortable with myself, with being me, the way that I wake up in the morning, like natural and sober. I was so uncomfortable with that and going and having a relationship with the world. I was so nervous of being judged. I was so insecure. It was all fear-based. It was just hundreds of forms of fear. I was just afraid of everything. I was afraid of the way that anybody would perceive me. I was afraid of the way that somebody would laugh at me, the way that I'm dancing at a wedding sober. You know, like I had to have some drinks in me to dance at a wedding. You know, I had to have a beer in my hand to socialize at a football game. You know, like anything. It didn't matter what it was. Like being me naturally, I was fully convinced that I was unable to have a relationship with anything or anyone in the world. And I just hated that about myself. And so that was my answer. Like the substances were my answer to that feeling of inadequacy and just so much fear.
Fear is what do they call it? The corroding thread of our entire lives or something like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a lot of our motives with doing the things we do is fear. Like we're in a relationship, I'm gonna hurt you because I'm scared of you maybe hurting me first.
Yeah.
But also I'm curious when heroin came in the picture. Heroin is like, it really intrigues me because I've never tried heroin, but I've had many good friends in recovery where that was their drug of choice. What makes it special?
It's hard to define it as special because, you know, it's just one of the most vile things that's out there. But I understand what you're saying. It was almost similar to like going from Percocets to Oxycontin, and then snorting Oxycontin to injecting Oxycontin. There was pill mills and, you know, doctor shopping and all sorts of illegal stuff going on in the Oxycontin era. And when that went away, when the DEA raided all the pill mills in our area, I mean, there was probably 10,000 people that were addicted to them in my city. And so the demand was there, but there was no supply. And so everything was dry for about a week. And a week later, you know, I'd call my dealer every single day. Do you have anything yet? Do you have anything? Nothing.
Yeah.
And eventually, you know, heroin made its way into the area. I mean, it was probably already there. It just wasn't as prevalent. But the supply came in and just wiped out our city. I mean, just everybody had it. My dealer answered one day and was like, "Matt, I don't have any pills, but I have something else. It's called heroin. I don't know if you want to try it or not, but I'll give you the first one for free because I think you'll like this and I think you'll come back. It's cheaper, it's stronger, it lasts longer. And I'll give you a tester." And I was like, listening to this, walking out of my apartment, like I didn't care that they just said heroin. Like I had heard of heroin before. And I was like, I'll never do that, ever. I'll never touch that. I know that my dealer just said heroin, but I'm like sprinting to the car to get it. I didn't care. I just wanted to feel better. And again, like the first time that I did heroin, it was, again, one of the next bests that I had experienced. Like every time I graduated from a pill to the stronger pill, that was the best. And then that pill to shooting that pill, the best. And then shooting pills to shooting heroin, the ultimate. And it was real heroin at the time. Like I hadn't experienced fentanyl. I think I maybe experienced fentanyl once or twice before it really started coming in. But I'm very grateful that I was able to get clean and sober before the fentanyl crisis.
So what was that downfall from there? From your first time to your last?
It was just the same things. I mean, my mom started to get to the point where she knew what I was doing. You know, like I would be honest with my mom. When I would go to treatment, I'd come out and I'd tell her what I was doing. And so she started to like reach out for help for herself. She started to find resources for herself. And people like told her the reality is your son might get sober and you might not. And regardless of which way it plays out, you still have to be okay. Like, you still have other kids that you need to take care of. You have a job, you have a home, you have friends, you have yourself. You know, you need to get to a point where you're able to take care of yourself and stop taking care of Matt's chaos. And so she was able to like build up to a point where while I'm going in and out of these treatment centers, she's not letting me in the house anymore. I'm getting arrested, calling her. She's not bailing me out anymore. She's not providing any food, like nothing. I mean, like nothing.
She had to set her own boundaries.
Oh my gosh, she learned about boundaries, and she did, and I think that's so important for family members. It was October 14th, very cold in October, like unnaturally cold. It's not typically that cold, but it was very cold. It was going to go below freezing, and I knocked on her door. I said, "Mom, can I please just stay in the garage tonight so that I can survive the night? Like, it's going to drop below freezing." And she like, the screen door was between us, and she was like, I could tell she was rehearsing something on what to say. She said, "Matt, you'll always be my son, but you're no longer my child. If you don't get off my property, I'm calling the police." Damn. And then she just like slowly shut the door.
Yeah.
And to know my mom, I knew that I was like hurting my family. Like I knew that. I knew that I wasn't making my family proud. But to hear what I heard my mom say was, it's not my problem whether you survive tonight. You're a big boy, and I need to take care of myself. That's what I heard her say. And that hit in a different way because I love my family. Like, I'm a family man. I like relationships, friendships, family. Like, I grew up that way. Like, that is, you protect that. That's very, very important. And to hear my mom say that to me, like, it hit something inside that's never, ever hit before. And so I actually got to a point where I was considering suicide. I thought, I can't get clean. Sobriety is not for me. I've tried it too many times. Up to that point, it was 27 times. Sobriety, I'll never get sober. I can't continue to do this. The way that I just heard my mom explain the way that she's living, like, I am just ruining her entire life. Every time I get arrested, I get out of it. I could be in prison so many times to this point, but I've never been to prison. Maybe I just shouldn't be here. Like, that was like a legitimate, and I've never had those thoughts before, ever. And so I started to carry out a plan. I stole a gun from somebody that I was, kind of working with on the streets, and got high one last time, and I had it in my mouth, and just like broke down. I just broke down. I was in her garage. Actually, I broke into her garage while she was at work. And my plan was to just do that there, in a very sick and twisted way to show her, if you're not going to let me in your garage, then this is what you're going to come home to. You're going to come home to your son dead in your garage. And thinking about her coming home from work after like 10 years of me just dragging her through the mud and like taking her completely hostage in my addiction, coming home from work and finding me that way, it just like, it made me sick. It tore me up. And I like truly had a breakdown. I was like, I need to go to prison. I need to go to jail. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the police on myself. I'm already a convicted felon. I had a fugitive warrant out of Michigan at the time. I had 2 other felony warrants. I had already been convicted of a felony. So I had a weapon on me. Like, that's automatic prison time. I had drugs and paraphernalia. Like, I was like, with all these factors, if the police come, I will absolutely go to prison. And at least my mom can sleep like peacefully knowing that I'm not on the streets shooting heroin every day. And 6 months before that, our county had developed something that's called the DART unit, the Drug Abuse Response Team. When I called 911 and said this to them, whoever it was that answered that call dispatched to them rather than dispatching to police, and a DART officer showed up. And so I'm in the back of the cop car. I don't have handcuffs on. I'm like, "What? You're a really nice guy. Why are you being so nice to me? What's going on?"
Yeah.
And like, the jail is that way. Where are you taking me? Like, are you a real police officer? What? Like, I thought I was getting kidnapped or something. I didn't know what was happening. And he's like, people don't call the police on themselves, and a jail cell is not where you need to be right now. He's like, we have this new program, and you're going to go to treatment. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I've been to treatment 6 times this summer already. Like, treatment doesn't work for me. He's like, well, you're going to give it one more shot. And so that was the 14th. I got into treatment on the 15th, and that was the last time I ever used an illicit substance.
Shit, that was the beginning.
That was the beginning of it all.
No, yeah, like where's like God is written all over that.
I know, truly. And I think about like my dad too. Like I know my dad's with me, and like the timing of it all, you know, like they had just started that program. If I had made that phone call 6 months prior, I would be in prison today.
Right.
You know, but like they started that program to get people out of jail cells and into treatment centers. And thank God that I was able to survive for 6 more months on the streets and get to that point. And my mom learned what she needed to learn to say no to me finally.
Yeah.
So that I could like hit my true rock bottom. And it didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, but I'm glad that it didn't. Because if it did work out the way that I wanted it to, I'd be in prison.
Exactly. Like we think our ideas are the best, but there's really like something better working for us, even if we don't believe it. So finding God would you say was that the hardest part? But you did that early on, like being willing to find a connection with a higher power. What would you say like has been almost the biggest lesson these past 10 years in your sobriety and your recovery?
I think things are as hard as we make them. You know, like we talk about recovery being a simple process for complicated people. You know, the only thing that I have to do every single day is not use drugs. And that's turned out to be one of the easiest things that I've ever done in my life, is to just simply not use drugs. I mean, the drugs don't chase me down. I had to make a conscious decision and go through that entire process and weigh pros and cons and all that sort of stuff. Acquire it, use it all, and not like that. The thought of being I love the way that I am. Like, I love waking up. I love the way my mind works. I love family. I love food. I love life. I just love life. Like, it doesn't matter what season it is. It doesn't matter where I'm at in the world. Like, I think I find beauty in anything, truly anything. It doesn't matter what it is. I can look at like a tree with no leaves on it and be like, that is so beautiful that it dropped its leaves, and in the spring they're going to come back. Like, that is so cool. Like, that right there is bigger than me. Like, I can't make that happen. And so all these things just started to like clarity. I just started to develop some clarity, and not using for me has just been the easiest thing over the last 10 years. There's been a lot of other things that have been difficult. I think the amends process was one of them. You know, like people always, you talk about like the 1, 2, 3 shuffle, like you do step 1, 2, and 3, and then like we balk at step 4, like building that list, and then like the resentment list and like working with that. And that was hard, just putting pen to paper, but like it was nothing compared to 8 and 9 for me, like making that amends list and then starting to make those amends. 8 and 9 for me were really, really difficult. Like making amends was really, really difficult for me because I did some nasty things to people that I really, really care about. And so like having to relive that and go back to like, I'm in a different place now. I'm trying to do things completely differently, and to even think of myself as that person that did those things, it made me so like grossed out to even like have to go back to that place and have to address it and talk about it. And even if it was a half-hour like coffee conversation, like, hey, remember when I did this to you and I blah, blah, all these, like, it was just so uncomfortable to look that person in the face and say, I did this. I'm sorry. How can I make it right? I'm a different person today. You know, like, ugh, there was just something about
it's so odd because my addiction was pretty short-lived compared to a lot of the stories I've heard.
Yeah.
But like now, even just almost 4 years sober, I don't identify or resonate or can't even believe that I did the things I did 4 years ago. It's like, what?
I know.
Because I would never do anything of that nature today.
I know.
So it feels like a completely different person that I'm talking about while doing amends.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like that's been kind of like trippy for me, just even like, and then like with Xanax, because Xanax was my drug of choice, being so in and out of memory, it's just, it really doesn't feel like that was in this lifetime.
That's got to be tough with Xanax specifically, because like how do you remember everything that you need to do to make right? You know?
Yeah, it's just honestly a lot of ins and outs of memory, or just remembering stories that I heard when I was kind of like right before I took a pill.
Yeah.
Or videos. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was really weird, but yeah, it's hard talking about the past.
It is. It's tough. There's been people that have like, I've forgotten people on 8 and 9, and I'll just see them somewhere, and I'll be like, oh my gosh,
it comes back to
forgot about it. I owe you $200, you know, like, and I'll just go up to them and pay them the $200, or ask them if they're willing to meet or whatever it is. And you know, this is another thing too. We make it out to be so much worse than what it's really going to be a lot of times.
Yeah,
like
100%.
most of the times, almost every time that I've ever went and made an amends to somebody, sat down and had a conversation, whatever it is. Let's just say I owed somebody $100. I'd meet with them, ask how things are going, have the whole conversation, make sure my intent is good. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for the individual. The timing is right. It's not going to do injure to them or others by making this amend. And most of the time their response is, Matt, I'm just so happy and proud for you. The $100 is water under the bridge. I don't care about it. Donate it to charity. Give it to somebody else. It's okay. I'm just glad you're doing well. Keep doing the right thing. Like, that's how it's been most of the time. Right. Like, truly. And I work it up and like make it this big, massive thing in my mind. Like, it's gonna, like, they're gonna cuss me out and all these things.
It's kill me.
Yeah. And like, tell me how much of a POS I am and like all this terrible stuff. It's gonna be a terrible conversation, and I'm gonna be stressed up about it for weeks. And it turns out to be like, oh my gosh, they truly just want to see me doing well. They did. That's all they wanted. And I think that that's the case with most people out there, is your friends and family who you burned during active addiction. You know, I'm not saying don't try to make amends, but don't stress over the details of the amends.
Yeah.
The fact that you're doing better is the living amends for them. And most of the time they'll say, don't even worry about it. I forgive you. It's forgiven. Keep doing the right thing.
Yeah. That's been my experience as well. I think I only had maybe one go bad, but came back around. I feel like it's almost like a coping mechanism, like expecting the absolute worst so I can mentally prepare.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, truly. I think another thing that's been difficult in recovery is just the stigma that I'm a person in recovery.
Tell me about that.
Being the CEO of a healthcare agency that we employ 160 people today. We have a lot of real estate. I mean, it's a relatively large operation, and there will be people, whether it's politicians or judges or just people in the community, other treatment providers that maybe didn't go through addiction, and the CEO is like, you know, has a PhD and never did any of the sort of stuff that I did. It's like, you know, be careful over there. That person has a past, and anything can happen at any given time. Like, I've experienced that from the professional world, and I would argue that might be the just the naysayers that are out there. Like, being a person in recovery, it doesn't matter what you do. If you do well, if you become successful, well, you had to have become successful by cheating.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you did it legitimately. There's no way you didn't steal some sort of money or like embezzle something or something, you know, like, there's no way you did it the honest way. You're a person in recovery. There's no way you did it the right way. Oh, you went and got your master's degree in social work? You cheated on your tests, you know, like everything I've ever done in recovery, I've always had somebody say, because of your past, there's no way you were able to take the righteous path in doing this. And so I think that that's like the most frustrating thing for me, that even 10 years clean, I mean, I got all my record expunged. I have nothing on my record anymore. There's nothing there. I mean, I've worked so hard to go back to school, to pay off all my financial amends, to do everything right. And there's always somebody out there that says or thinks that, be careful with this person. Just be careful with this person because. It's like, and I guess a part of that I understand, you know, I do get that because you want to be careful. You want to protect yourself. You don't want to, you know, I don't know, get too close to somebody that might end up hurting you. You know, relapse is a thing. It happens. And so be careful. But can't people in recovery become successful too? Can't they go back and get their degrees? Can't they have families? Can't they do everything else that anybody else has done? Like, why can't somebody that has a checkered past have a beautiful future? Why does it, if we develop that beautiful future, why are we the ones that did it in a shady, sketchy? Yeah, it had to be shady. It just had to be. It's just an assumption. Again, stigma.
Yeah, you're proving them wrong though. And also, I've seen like the most successful people I know in my life are recovering addicts. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they almost have like that dedication and determination to like really, when they set their mind to something, I feel like they do it and they get it done.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're proving them wrong. And by doing what you do, you're breaking the stigma 100%.
It's motivation for me. Like when I hear people say that, it's just like, okay, keep it coming.
You knew,
keep it coming. Like you're pouring gas on the fire at this point. Like keep doubting me. I'll keep proving you wrong. Not only will I prove you wrong, I'm hopefully inspiring other people to continue to do that too. You know.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier in the beginning of this podcast the disease. Mm-hmm. I like here and there I'll ask like what do you believe addiction is a disease? Why? What even is the disease of addiction? So I'm assuming you believe addiction is a disease.
For me personally, I don't care what it's called. You know, it's like call it a disease, a malady, a condition, a disorder, whatever. And I think where people get tripped up on it is like cancer versus addiction. Like so unfortunate, understandable on how and why it's a disease versus these people made choices and they're just experiencing the consequences of their choices, you know. And there's a lot of diseases out there that start with poor choices, right? Like there's sexually transmitted infections out there that start with choices to have unprotected sex, and now you have something, you know. There's the way people's diet, there's, you know, smoking cigarettes or whatever, like they lead to diseases. And so that argument where people think that, you know, this just happens to people versus you made a choice, there's thousands of diseases out there where people make choices that lead to something that is now a diagnosable condition. The disease concept and medical model of it, once addiction treatment kind of went in this medical model direction to say, what are the presenting factors in the DSM? There's a tolerance component to addiction, just like many other diseases. There is this is incurable. I believe that I will be an addict for the rest of my life just because I haven't used substances today or for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. If I decide to snort an Oxycontin in 10 years, I know for a fact that I will continue to do that the way that I did where I left off. Like I cannot successfully use drugs and alcohol. Yes, I'm in remission at this point, but the fact that addict gene is still in me, it is waiting to be ignited, and then that can happen at any point. And so when we talk about the fact that there's tolerance, this is incurable, it's potentially fatal, it is progressive, meaning it gets worse and worse. I mean, these are all factors that, you know, people way smarter than me put the DSM together and said, if something has these factors, it falls into a diagnosable condition. And so when you look at it from a medical model perspective, then yes, like addiction has those components and it can be diagnosed as a disease. Now, I think the word disease is where people get tripped up. That's what messes with people. For me, all I know is that it's not a moral issue. This isn't something that makes people bad. I know that when you use substances addictively for a prolonged period of time, it physiologically changes your brain. I know that the brain can heal. And I know that with treatment and with abstinence from substances, you can achieve a life beyond your wildest imagination. And so, like, aside from what everybody else says out there, disease, not a disease, I don't care about that. I know that for somebody to receive treatment in our world today, though, with the medical model that we live in, there's pros and cons to that. You know, somebody comes in and it's like, I would love to just work with this person. I would love to talk with them and maybe they need this, but the insurance company says otherwise, you know, and this person has, you know, already been to treatment 3 times this year, and so they can be managed at an outpatient level of care. It's like, wait a minute, hold on a minute. All this like the back end business component that's come into addiction is where it makes it very, very ugly. But to understand and like collect a good diagnostic assessment and look at all the factors to come up with good diagnoses and to come up with a good treatment plan for all of those things, I understand that component from a medical model perspective. So it's just, I don't know. Do I believe it's a disease? I do. I do. I really do. I truly, because many diseases start with poor choices, and mostly because of the physiological change of the brain. I mean, like my brain was completely rewired in active addiction, and my brain is healed, which is a beautiful thing. But in active addiction, my brain was not thinking about shelter or food or obeying the law or being a good person. I mean, like my brain was hijacked by unnaturally introduced chemicals that I was feeding it multiple times a day.
Simply put, almost, it's like, the comparison between addiction and cancer. It's like nobody's choosing to have cancer, but you decided from the outside perspective, you decided to pick up a drug and now you're addicted.
Right.
Yes, I did fuck up, and I tried a substance once, but because of like from what I believe, it's like my chemical and like it's in my DNA that I'm more prone to getting like addicted physically and mentally. And where I fucked up, and now I no longer have the control or a choice in picking up the substance. Like that's where we get lost. They think we're choosing this and we want to get high. It's like, no, I no longer have a choice.
Right.
This feels, and like my brain is telling me this is the only way I can live.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not. There is no choice anymore. It's a necessity. Just like anybody else wakes up and, you know, takes a shower and eats a meal and goes to work. Like that's what they do. Like I don't have options when I wake up on the streets addicted to heroin. My only option is to have more heroin.
Yeah.
That's the only option. And my brain is telling me that. And so to understand that piece of it, and the other piece is, you know, not everybody's going to understand.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the stigma with it. It's like outside looking in, it's very hard to wrap your head around.
It's weird. There's all these different philosophical viewpoints, and everybody has their different opinion about it. And then there's the moral component that you throw on top of it, where it's like, well, you chose to use that substance.
Yeah.
And so now it's you have to bear the consequences of it. And you have to go back deeper than that. Like that choice to use that substance wasn't just a choice to use a substance. Again, we talk about like the pain, the emotional pain that I was going through. And yes, I did make a bad choice, but what it turned out to be for me as an individual was a coping mechanism for that pain that I was dealing with. And I wasn't trying to get addicted. That was not my goal. I didn't raise my hand in 3rd grade and say, I want to become an addict and experience homelessness and get arrested 13 times and overdose 3 times and go to treatment 28 times. I never wanted any of that stuff to happen.
Exactly.
It happens to people every single day. And I inherently believe that people who use drugs and alcohol are good people. I believe that everybody is born a good person. We're lost. And I truly believe that, again, like believing in the medical model and the disease concept of it, individuals that struggle with mental illness or substance use disorder, they're sick and they need some sort of treatment. And so they're not bad that need to become good. They're sick.
Yeah.
And if we treat them that way and tap into the medical model of what treatment resources are out there, understanding that they're sick and they need treatment in order to become well.
No, yeah, I think we kind of hit a lot today, and I really appreciate you. You didn't come only just for this, but I really appreciate you coming from Ohio to be on the podcast, and I'm so happy the timing and everything worked out.
Yeah, it did. It worked out beautifully.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the FTS podcast and bringing light to a lot of the stigmas out here about addiction and mental health. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.